All right, well, welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Happy Hour. Mike, what's up?
Derek, we're their friends. If they might, I don't know, they might make a cameo appearance, we'll see, over at First Line Brewing, but we're sitting with one of the greats. So we'll start with introductions, and then we'll roll right into it. So what's up, man?
Hey, thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you want to introduce yourself to all of the listeners that aren't watching on YouTube?
Sure. I'm Reid Ferguson, long snapper for the Bills. Been a long time coming. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this for a while.
Absolutely. So, starting way back when you were younger, you grew up in Georgia, right?
Yep.
And what was your childhood like? Like, did you always want to do football? What was that like?
Sure. So, grew up basketball, baseball when I was super young. Got to fifth grade, had been dying to play football. Got to fifth grade, parents finally let me put on the pads. And
Were they reluctant because
well,
it was contact?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, so in the rec league that I played in the, I guess, before middle school, if you were above, you had to be under, I think it was 100 pounds maybe. Or it may have been 200. I don't remember. Anyway, there was a weight limit. And if you were above the weight limit, you had to wear an R on your helmet. You couldn't carry the ball.
Oh.
Right? So they didn't want the other kids to get hurt.
Just get bulldozed
Exactly.
over.
Exactly. You've seen videos of kids, right? So I was like barely over the limit on weigh-ins, and then I made it like my life's commitment as a fifth grader, right, to get under the weight limit so that I could be a ball carrier. Right? Thought that was the coolest thing ever. Jason Taylor was my favorite player ever, which is ironic now that I'm playing in Buffalo. So tried to do it as best I could, and got under and never touched the ball. So that was awesome. I've never scored a touchdown, never done anything, but I played I started out D end, tight end through 5th, 6th, 7th grade. Almost stopped playing after 7th grade. My coach and my dad talked me into it. Came back for the 8th grade season, and that's when my career kind of changed. The center long snapper, he was a kid. He was a year younger playing up. He was 7th playing with the 8th graders, and he got hurt like real early, maybe, I don't know, before the season maybe, and they needed somebody to step in. So my dad, I wasn't really playing tight end, defensive end. I was backup, third string, whatever. Wasn't really getting any playing time whatsoever. And my dad came. He kind of approached me and said, is it, let's check out long snapping and play in center and just see if you can do it, right? Just see if it's something. If we put, a weekend's worth of practice in a couple days and see if you can go out there and get the job done. So that's kind of that's kind of where it started. That's when I started snapping in 8th grade, and here we are.
That's wild that you started that young doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that position existed in 8th grade.
Well, yeah, and so that would have been 2008, I believe, when I started doing that, and now, so once I started getting into snapping, I started going to some camps. There's a guy, his name's Chris Rubio. He runs snapping camps all across the country, regional camps throughout the year, and then a national camp twice a year in Vegas, where everybody can come and kind of be. It's like a showcase camp. So once I started going to these camps, the longer I participated throughout high school, and then still paying attention to them now, the younger kids are starting to start long snapping because they realize. I think he started doing the camps early 2000s, maybe a couple years before I probably started go into the camps. Like 8th, 7th grade was kind of the youngest that did it.
Oh, okay.
But then, so you kind of see over the past 10, 13 years, he's putting more guys in college, more guys in the league. There's a bunch of guys in the league that have come from doing his camps. I think that's attracting more parents that are saying, okay, well, I don't want my kid to play a linebacker. I don't want my kid, getting out there and having a higher potential to get hurt.
Sure.
But my kid can still play football, but he can be a long snapper, right? Because you're still getting, I don't know, I'm out there for 10 to 12 plays a game, probably punts and field goals. But there's definitely with the way that the league has set up the safety rules for us, as far as getting hit in the head and neck area, there's not as much of a potential to get hurt, outside of really running down on the punt and making a tackle.
Sure.
So I think as far as getting kids into the game, I think some parents are starting to see snapping as a route to get to allow their kids to play the game, but play it at a somewhat safer position, if you will. So, I mean, there's kids now that start when they're in fifth grade, as early as I started playing football, which is amazing. I think the kid that's at LSU right now, his name's Quentin Skinner. He went to the same high school as myself and my brothers 3 in a row.
Seriously?
Yeah, at LSU. Yep, Buford High School in Georgia. So he started. I was at my brother and I were at the first camp that he attended, and it was I believe he was in 4th or 5th grade. He was late elementary school. So it's pretty wild, and you could see it was pretty cool to see his development through middle school and through high school. I mean, he's a beast now, but yeah, it was pretty cool to kind of see from that young of an age to because it's not an easy thing to catch on to. The techniques and stuff are very time consuming is not the word, but very difficult to kind of pick up on because it's such an awkward thing. You're throwing it upside down, really. Right. You're not, as a kid, you're sitting there throwing the football standing up, right? Or you're playing catch, with baseball. Right. Throwing a football with 2 hands upside down, looking back at something is not like any kind of natural position that you'd ever be in. So to kind of pick up on that at such an early age was huge for him. So, and he got a scholarship. So.
And then you got a block.
That's right.
So the job's not over with.
Well, yeah, that's the big thing now that between college and the league. College, and for anybody that doesn't know, college rules differ a little bit from the NFL, where in college you can run down. So once the ball is snapped, you can run down. The punt team can cover down as soon as the ball is snapped. You don't have to wait on the kick. That's why you don't see a ton of returns, punt returns in college football, because the guys are usually down there to force a fair catch or whatever, and they do that for safety reasons and stuff like that. But in the NFL, you have to wait. Out, except for the gunners on the outside, the core of the punt team, you can't release until the ball is kicked, which is roughly around 2 seconds. So that's why you have to learn how to block, and that's a big sticking point for kids that are coming out of college and into the NFL, is really learning how to really learning that blocking system and all the different defenses and rushes and looks that you might get, and how to block them and how to read kind of what the defense is trying to throw at you, because 99% of colleges don't run a pro style punt. They run what they call a spread punt. So that's kind of hitting on the blocking part of it. That's definitely a big thing that causes some kids to not make it at this level. But I was fortunate enough. My dad helped me learn, kind of start getting into the blocking and start studying that kind of early on in my college career, just maybe in the off season or just at practice when I wasn't doing anything for LSU, just kind of working on my blocking steps and stuff like that. And I was fortunate enough my first 2 years at LSU to have a former NFL coach. He coaches for the Giants now, Thomas McGahee. He's a special teams coordinator there, but he was vital to my success there at LSU and kind of starting to learn the pro style punt system. So
back in high school, you played baseball and basketball, you said?
I stopped in 8th grade. I stopped.
Or middle school.
Yeah, middle school. Yeah,
gotcha.
I stopped. Once I got to high school, I was only football, which it's I think it's kind of a mixed bag you get nowadays with parents that or not parents and coaches and all kinds of people are saying do as much as you can, try to be as athletic as possible. It'll only be good for you. And that's, I definitely agree with that. Looking back on it, I wish I had still played baseball. I probably wouldn't have been good enough to make the basketball team. But, I wish I hadn't cut off my horizons. But I think looking back on it, it's worked out for me.
Clearly.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's worked out for me. So I'm kind of, I can see both sides of it, where it's like, okay, well, I really honed in on on this long snapping thing, and I spent time that I would have been doing playing baseball or doing some kind of like track and field or something, anything else other than football. I spent the football off season training snapping, going to camps, like doing stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do if I was playing another sport.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you just have, use your time wisely, but yeah, I mean, it's there's definitely two schools of thought, but I think I can see both sides.
Yeah. So your progression into LSU from high school, was that a result of the school that you were at, because like your high school was very good, or was it more a result of the camps that you were in? Like, how did that connection get started?
Yeah, so I think a little bit of both. Our school, Beaufort High School, we were top team in the state. We won a bunch of championships and all that. So we were getting a lot of exposure, a lot of scouts coming through pretty much every week. But I think my senior class put out like 15 guys to college. It was very, very successful. The coaching staff, the program is phenomenal. But coming back on Chris Rubio, he would run his own regional camps with snapping and stuff. But then schools, some colleges would hire him to run their specialist camp, like over their summer specialist, like kicking camp or whatever. And Rubio has a buddy named Chris Saylor who runs the kicking and punting aspect of the camps. So it's kind of an all-encompassing specialist camp that they run around the country. But a couple that they ran Oregon, they ran Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, like just to name a couple. And I tried to go to all of them. I went to all of them at least once, but I went to Tennessee. Both my parents went to Tennessee, so obviously I went to the Tennessee summer camp, the specialist camp that they ran. I went to the LSU one that they ran. So I went to those for 3 years, freshman, sophomore, junior year. And they had seen, I'm trying to put myself in front of their eyes as many times as possible. And it just, it kind of coincided with, after my sophomore year, junior, senior year, I was like the number one guy in my class. So it just happened to be, I was the number one guy for Rubio's camp. He had a ranking, like a star system, ranking system for all the snappers that he saw. So, I would be that top guy going to these camps. So obviously, I'm putting myself in the best position to kind of be seen by these schools where I would like to go to college. I wasn't like, okay, I'm only going to go to these places that these camps run, right? But those are some schools that I definitely would have liked to get an offer from. Ended up getting an offer from Tennessee and LSU. So I think it was just kind of putting myself in the best position possible. It definitely was a lot of practice, a lot of hard work to get to that point. But unfortunate enough to be able to kind of travel around and do all that stuff. So, yeah.
Did you like take your brother with you? Like, we'll talk about your brother later because you guys are both long snappers. He's for the Miami Dolphins. Yep. Did you take your brother with you to this? Was that his path that he wanted to go to, or what was that like?
Yeah. So he's 3 years younger than me. So when I was in eighth grade, he was fifth grade. I had snapped 2 years, and then he started. Or once I had snapped 2 years, I was going into my sophomore year in high school, and he was entering seventh grade. That's when he started snapping. He started when he was in seventh grade. So once I started going to these camps in high school, he did tag along. He didn't participate, but he started doing the regional camps too. So we would always participate in those together. But I'm trying to think back. Once LSU offered me. And once I committed there and started going, once he got into high school, he started going to the summer camps down there, and he kind of started. He basically did the same track as me. He'd go to all these different summer camps, but I think after his sophomore year, Les Miles offered him a scholarship to LSU. We overlapped a year, so some people look. There was a little bit of, I don't know what you would call it. Confusion as you're like, why are we spending 2 of our scholarships on long snappers? Right. Like, I get it, they're brothers, but like, what, this guy's riding the bench the whole time. But it worked out. We had 8 years of Ferguson brothers snapping, and
that's a legacy,
we're
man.
successful. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's wild.
kind of set the tone for the special teams legacy. But I mean, he kind of followed a very similar path as I have, and luckily enough, here we are playing each other twice a year.
That's sweet.
That's pretty cool. 2-0, by the way.
So that's right.
Never let him forget it.
So-
I sent him. We swapped jerseys, obviously, like after the first game we played. So we played him in Miami first, which was awesome to kind of get that first one out of the way at his home stadium. But I signed the jersey. I was like, Ferguson Bowl 1-0. Never forget it. So he can't forget it. I've always got the bragging rights. So
That's awesome.
pretty cool.
So because Derek played different sports, and then the whole dynamic of upstate sports in New York, specifically football, is so different from your entire life.
Definitely.
Like, it's not even close.
Definitely.
If any, I hate to say it, but it's fact, if any Western New York football team went to Ohio, we would get destroyed. Like, the dudes are just way bigger. They're doing it from way earlier on, and it's a totally different league. And then down south, like, I'm honestly not even surprised that that's a focus, is my kid can long snap because, like, Randy Moss is the X.
Yeah.
And he's playing here, and it's like, that's normal.
Yeah.
Where we have probably one wide receiver that could potentially go D2 every, I don't know, decade.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even the same league.
Yeah.
So to hear that story is just kind of fascinating, because I don't think anybody around us understands what that's like. So what was the recruiting process for you specifically from LSU? Like, is it what we always hear about, like the coach shows up at your house and knocks on the door and says,
Sure.
we want to talk to your son?
Yeah. So kind of, not really.
Okay.
It was a lot of mutual. I loved LSU ever since I started going down there. So I knew that if they offered me out, it would definitely be top of my consideration list.
Okay.
But I mean, it was phone calls, emails, whatever. They'd send a scout or a coach to the game, and it was myself and a guy named Vidal Alexander. We both went from Buford to LSU. We were roommates at LSU for our first freshman year, but he was a left tackle. So we both ended up going. So they had a reason to kind of come see both of us. So they were around pretty often, coming to the school, coming to visit, talking to coaches and stuff. But it was very heavily involved in the process, I would say. But it wasn't like a blindside recruiting process for a long snapper. I would
Right.
definitely not say, but maybe for Vidal, it being a left tackle.
Or Trey White.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, probably Tredavious, but yeah, definitely not for me. Yeah, it was good though. I mean, you can only go through that process once
Yeah.
in your life, so you gotta. And as a high schooler, my parents were telling me, don't take any of this for granted. Going on all these unofficial trips. We would go, just about every Saturday during the high school season for the last, for my sophomore and junior year. We would go on like unofficial visits to places that were interested in me. Not just, we went to LSU once or twice, but I went to North Carolina, Mississippi State, Alabama, Tennessee, just different places to that throughout the early recruiting process, because they were somewhat interested in me. So just taking those trips, just to see the schools, have a little bit of fun, and kind of see each place's culture was definitely one of the coolest parts about it, because it was usually just myself and my dad kind of like out for the weekend on a road trip, which was awesome. So
Yeah.
So what was your LSU career like? When did you get the start? Right away?
Yeah, so I left. Both Tennessee and LSU asked me to graduate early because they both had guys that were graduating after their senior season. So they wanted me to come in and start in the spring semester to get that spring practice in, so I could start the upcoming season.
Gotcha.
Because it's difficult coming in the fall. You've got a couple weeks of college, and that's a lot coming at you at one time. So
Yeah.
I ended up taking summer school the year before my senior year to kind of make up. I kind of took second semester before first semester. It was really weird, but to make up for what I would miss. So I basically left high school at the end of after December 2011 and enrolled at LSU spring of 2012, and I started spring practice down there after doing a couple months of workouts. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. So yeah,
Wow.
Started for 4 years. My brother started for 4 years too. So
Is the attack the same? Like defensive line, they watch film. Skills guys watch film. Is it the same for special teams in regards to like see what your wrist is doing? Is it that much attention to detail, or
as compared to like right now, or what do you mean?
in general? Because I don't think anybody understands what actually happens with special teams. It's
Oh,
like,
sure.
well, yeah, I'll just go on the field and kick the ball, and then I have
Yeah.
to know when to release. But it's like
Yeah.
if outside of gunners, like I don't think anybody really knows.
Yeah,
anything.
I think so. As far as the college level, I think the coaches, and especially at like big programs like that, I'm being as humble as possible. Like the big time programs, the top every year. They always get the best recruiting classes, best players, whatever. They know that, and LSU is a great example. They know that a couple of the guys that aren't the star guys could easily make it in the NFL if they are good at special teams, right? So
Right.
they try to push those guys. They try to push understanding special teams and playing special teams as much as possible because they know in the league, outside of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and right, like a couple handful, like Tre'Davious White, like you're gonna have a role on special teams, right?
Oh, yeah.
So because of the limited roster size, so you have to understand outside of offense and defense, this is something that you're gonna have to study more than likely unless you're some
All-out
God-given
talent.
superstar,
Right.
right? So getting guys to understand that at an early process is super important because it could be life-changing for them. We've had a couple guys, Russell Shepard off the top of my head, he was like I don't know, fourth receiver his whole time at LSU, like all-American, quarterback coming out of high school, was a receiver at LSU. He was okay, I guess, at LSU. Made some big-time plays, played for 4 years, I think, graduated, and I think he played for. He had a nice long career in the NFL. Just recently retired, is doing very well for himself. So it's like if you have the athletic ability to make it to that school in the first place.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Learn to play special teams, and you can extend your career 5 years. Depending on, you could be a receiver for a couple years, and then really learn that expertise of special teams, and then just say, okay, well, you're not good enough to catch balls anymore, or you're not good enough to run the ball anymore, but you could play special teams, and you're really good at being a right tackle on the punt team. We really like you. You're a great locker room guy. Well, yeah, we'll keep you around for a couple years. Like that's a real thing. You can step in and play for third string linebacker sometimes if we need you in the end of the season or whatever it may be. And that's how guys stick around and prolong their career.
To your point, Will Compton's doing that now. With
Yeah,
the,
great
with the Titans.
example.
Yeah,
Great
so
example.
he runs no free shout-outs, to use their own term, but they run busting with the boys.
Yeah.
And he talks about it all the time. He's like, if I wasn't good at special teams and good at running scout, I don't even know if I'd be here. Like, but I'm able to have that conversation, and they know that I can make tackles,
Yeah.
so they'll just throw me out on punt or
Yep.
kickoff or whatever, and then I can literally just stay on the team and hang out with the boys.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
I love that you bring up athletic ability because one of my favorite things that I remember is when I was in high school, I would always run drills just with my friends, and I would time my 40 time, and it was atrocious because I'm not an athlete whatsoever.
Same.
So, but I would look up some of the stuff, and the one that I really remember is Vince Wilfork from the Patriots. He's a big dude,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this dude runs miles faster than I do. How does that even
crazy.
happen?
Uh,
But it just goes to what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
if you're an athlete and you're getting recruited by these colleges, you're an athlete.
You're just
Yeah.
different, dude.
It's different.
It's
It's
disgusting.
different, especially those big dudes. It's some of those
Scary.
those dudes are freaks, freaks. And I remember watching the draft last year, like some of the the combine last year, and the dude that got drafted by Tampa, the offensive tackle, Wirfs. He same thing. massive dude. I don't know, it's like 340 or something.
Yeah, he ran a
Freak.
high 4, didn't he?
Yeah, like 4.48 probably, like 4.7.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're faster than me. Like, what the heck? And he's like, you outweigh me by 90 pounds. Like, what's going on here?
Right, what I do wrong.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
So
Yeah.
coming into the NFL, then, what was your entrance like? Like from a scouting combine or
Yeah.
any like that? Like, what type of drills did you do to prove?
Worthy.
Yeah, sure. So coming out, so I finished LSU in my last season was 2015.
And you got that degree.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes. Yeah. Started on my master's, didn't finish it yet. Hopefully someday I'll go back and finish that. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, got undergrad. So spring of 2016, started the draft process. Like doing my combine training. Didn't go to the didn't get a combine invite. I'll save that for the end. But started the draft process. Was working out at a place in Atlanta. Going about 4 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and working out and running and stuff and doing my training that way, and ended up going through the draft process, trying to piece it all together. In kind of like midway through my training, there's a guy, his name's Gary Zahner. He runs kind of like a college senior combine for guys that are coming out, like I was. You can go there for snappers, punters, and kickers, kind of like the camps that I did go to. But this is kind of like NFL transition, kind of like next level, I guess.
But not a pro day?
No,
Or
well,
like a pro day?
I did a pro day, but this is
Okay.
this is like a camp. It was out in Arizona. It's
Okay.
like he does like one of them every year. So he'll video testing and all this stuff. You know, see how many times you can put it on his hip out of 15 snaps or whatever, and laces on field goals, stuff like that. You get tested, and those test results are spit out to NFL coordinators or scouts, guys that are looking for specialists upcoming, punters and kickers too. So I did that camp, did really well. I think I finished second or something, and then went home and basically kept training. I played in the NFLPA Senior Bowl, which was really, really cool. I think it's kind of the alternate to the Senior Bowl down in Alabama, but kept doing my training. Kind of finished all that up, the camps and stuff, and went home and just finished did some training on my own. Trained with Patrick Manley. He snapped for the Bears for a long time. He knew the guy that was training me in Atlanta at his facility, so he came down and worked with me for a day. That was really cool. Learned a lot from him. And when the draft came up, I had my list of teams. I went 1 to 32, and basically ranked them based on who I talked to, who's reached out to me, how much contact, what their situation was, what the money situation was, how long has this guy been here, blah 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 blah, and kind of had all 32 teams, split up into tiers almost. And once the draft rolled around, like, it was go time. And it was pretty exhilarating kind of on that day 3, because I knew, day 1, day 2, no chance. Maybe for some long snapper someday who's some freak athlete. But I knew day 3 was when it was going down.
Yeah.
Whether that was draft or undrafted, like, I had to be ready to make a decision one way or the other. And so went through, that day 3 rolls around, round 4, round 5, 6, kind of in contact with my agent, hey, such and such, they might be interested. They've got 2 picks left, blah, 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 blah. And got a call from a coach, hey, we might take you, I'm putting your name in the hat, blah, and I knew, it's all, you take it with a grain of salt at that point, because it's, that's just part of it. They're just trying to, they're trying to pull for you, because if they don't get you, they want to sign you after the draft, because they want to bring you in for competition or whatever, if they really like you, whatever it may be. So, the coach, he's not there anymore, but the coach from Detroit, special teams coordinator that was there, they were pretty high on my list because he'd done a private workout with me, had called me a bunch, really kind of put some time into developing a somewhat of a relationship. And he was like, all right, we're looking, we're coming up here in 20 picks or something. We got you, you're on the board. And they took another snapper out of Baylor who went to the Senior Bowl. So I was just like, okay, this is a little slap in the face. I was like, okay, but the cliche, the chip on the shoulder, that's go out and prove them wrong. So at the end of the draft, my agent called me and he had the Bills and the Washington football team on, at the time, not that, but he had both teams on the phone. The Bills were offering me a spot through training camp and a little bit of money on the side, and but undrafted guys you can't offer a ton of money anyway. But a little bit of an incentive to sign there, and then Washington was offering me basically a rookie, like a rookie mini camp tryout. You kind of where come in for this. Friday, Saturday, Sunday mini camp where all the bring in all the rookies, and then we'll keep some of the guys that we think can, that we want to carry through training camp. So it was easy for me. I was just like, all right, Buffalo. And oddly enough, Buffalo was like 21 on my list. Like I never heard from Buffalo. Never, I wasn't expecting to hear from them. So it was a nice surprise to obviously get a call from them and have them be as interested as they were. So I came in, spent the whole offseason, went through training camp, and that 2016 season was the last year that they had the 2 cut dates. They did one after the third game and then after the fourth game. So after the third, they cut from 90 to 75. I was part of that cut, so I missed the fourth game and was home, kind of just was home on my couch, still working out and stuff. But kind of leading up to that, I felt like I did, I had a really good camp, really good off season. Felt like I learned a lot, but the guy that was here before me, his name's Garrison Sanborn. I think he was here for 8 years prior to me, and he was a good snapper, taught me a lot, and I appreciate that. But I thought there was a chance that they could keep me. Looking back on it, it's probably not a huge surprise that they decided to cut me, but I was basically home for about 2 months, September, October, and they called me back November 1st. I'll never forget. I was in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
Nice. My man.
And of course, I love Chick-fil-A. That's my people. And I had just pulled out of the drive-thru with my egg white grill or something. That's like my favorite breakfast sandwich. So I had just no free advertisements. I had just
appreciate you.
Yeah, I had just pulled out of the drive-thru and I got a call from the ops guy. And he was like, hey, we're going to bring you back on practice squad. I've got a flight for you in 4 hours or something. And I was like, all right, I'll see you there. And I hung the phone up, and I lost my appetite. That's the only time I'll ever not be hungry for Chick-fil-A, right? It was nuts. I was like, what is going on right now? Completely took me by surprise.
Right.
For those 2 months, I'd been working odd jobs, walking dogs in my neighborhood, just for some side cash. Just to keep myself busy, while I was working out and all this kind of stuff. So, and on Saturdays we were driving back and forth to Baton Rouge when they had a home game to watch my brother play. That was kind of my life for 2 months. Fortunate that it was only 2 months. I know for some guys, it takes a lot longer when you're cut to kind of get back in the league, but it's a huge timing thing, especially for specialists. I got the call, and next thing I know, I was on a flight. I packed a big bag.
Yeah, what'd you pack?
Well, I didn't know.
What's your thought process?
Well, right. So at that point, you don't know how long you're staying. Right. I could be up there for a week. I could be up here, for the rest of the season. And I think it was week 8 when they called me back, and we were going into it was the week leading into the Monday night game against Seattle. We almost beat them. But that was the week I got called back, and then the bye week was the next week, so that was pretty nice. Kind of like get my bearings.
This was all in 2016.
2016 season, and so so I came up here, and they put me up in a hotel for about a week.
The extended stay.
Yeah, the extended. Yeah. And so then and kind of I practiced all week. I'd practice 2 or 3 days a week, kind of run scout team and stuff like that, and at the end of the season, they signed me to a futures deal, like a 2-year. I think it's like a 2-year contract, and then I think in March, they released Garrison, and that was after Coach McDermott, and I don't know if Bean had gotten here yet, but that was Coach McDermott and his staff. They came in, and they cut the other guy and kept me, and that's kind of when it got really real. And when I heard that news, I was working a job at a chiropractor's office, like doing like ultrasounds on like
Really?
Yeah, just like minimal rehab work on some people just to keep myself busy. I had been going to this chiropractor for 10 years, at this point. So he was just like, just give me a job, something for the off season while I'm working out. And I was at work one day and got the news, and I just like, my heart just like exploded. I was like, no freaking way this is happening right now.
So
like
that's
in March
all
of all time, like it was the most random time.
Right.
And I've been here ever since. So.
And that was all agent? Like, were you, like, so, obviously we don't know what the hell happens. So, like,
Sure.
when you're going through that whole process trying to get signed, or you're hoping that a contract
Yeah.
shows up for you, is that who's ever in the front office for the organization, and then your agent, and then you're just texting your agent back and forth, like, I'll
Yeah.
take your advice, but you're kind of like,
Yeah,
Jesus, take the wheel?
Yeah, you don't really. The player doesn't really communicate with the team
Okay.
as far as contract goes. It's mostly run through the agent. That's what the 3%'s for. But I mean, I have a great agent. They do a great job. So, but yeah, I mean, as I knew, I was my agent kind of told me to expect a futures contract after that 16 season going into 17, then the 17 off season, because they kept me all through training camp. I had done well, and then they well enough to bring me back on practice squad. And it's having a snapper or a specialist in general on the practice squad for that long, is kind of odd.
Yeah.
Usually save that for another receiver, a lineman, or something like that. So. I knew that they liked me enough to keep me around for that long, especially on the practice squad through those seasons. So, I was hoping, and I had figured that a futures deal was coming along. So, signed it right, before, the season ended, and then like that kind of same day, I signed the futures contract to lock, they locked me up to come back for the off season stuff the next year in the spring of 17. But, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty cool experience.
Man.
Yeah,
That's
it's been cool
fascinating.
ever since. But yeah.
Well, right.
Kind of cool to see. I mean, I just finished up my 5th year. Kind of cool to see kind of the since the new regime has come in, how everything has changed.
Did the OC change from when you first showed up to now?
I'm
Not the OC, but the special teams coordinator?
Yeah, so 16, 17, and 18, I had the same guy. His name is Danny Crossman. He's actually the special teams coordinator in Miami with my
cool.
brother now. He
Okay.
drafted my brother last year.
He's like, I know this family. We're
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
He's like, they're good people.
He knew what he was getting. My brother and I are very, very similar snappers. But, and then the last 2 years, Heath Farwell has been the special teams coordinator. He
Okay.
played for about 10 years with the Vikings and the Seahawks.
Gotcha.
So,
Well, he's got one of the easiest jobs in the league right now. So
yeah, he's we love him to death. And our assistant Matthew Smiley, he's been great. He's been here since 2017. So he was here the year before 2 years before Heath. So he's been here with me my whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're great. And then Bass and Bojo are great guys
Yeah.
too.
Right.
It's phenomenal.
So you said that you and your brother have the same techniques. Not giving away your secrets, but
Yeah.
what are the techniques to long snapping?
Sure. So a lot of it involve, the form goes into it obviously, but follow through, your hand speed, how you hold your head, blocking steps, all that kind of stuff kind of goes into it.
and that's all on tape. So like,
Yeah.
so now that you're
Yeah,
on the
you
show,
can go on the all 22 film on like NFL.com or whatever and look it up, and I could sit there and roll you through.
do you do that? So is that
Yeah.
part of your? Is that,
Yeah,
okay.
every week. Yeah. I watch. I try to lay my eyes on every punt every week just to watch guys across the league and kind of see my competition, see how I'm.
Do you
stacking
emulate
up.
anybody? Because
Um,
there's a lot of wide receivers that are like, I love what 17
Right.
for Green Bay does. So
Right.
I watch how his release off the line. So
Yeah.
like, do you guys do that?
a little bit, not much.
Okay.
Kind of. I would say most of my emulation of guys across the league, and it's not really one guy, it's a handful of guys, but a lot of it is pre-snap. As far as looking around and reading the defense and kind of not giving anything away, but kind of trying to draw guys off sides or whatever
Right.
it may be. But then once you're kind of locked into the snap itself, that's where my form takes over, and it's really me. It's not me trying to emulate anybody else.
And who hikes the ball if it's a punt?
Me. What do you mean?
So
Oh, the PP. You talking about the PP?
Yeah,
like
so
the
like-
personal protector.
so he's the one calling the shots.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Jaquan Johnson.
Yep.
He's a safety, but he's been the PP for 2 years. He was a rookie last year, so his first 2 years, he does a great job.
That's fascinating because
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
whole side of the ball. that most
He's
people
got
are
to
like,
read the
yeah.
defense. He makes the blocking calls and everything. So
Yeah.
he does a great job.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you're
He
talking
threw the
about,
fake too in New England.
That's
Yeah.
right.
oh yeah,
That's right.
that's awesome.
Got a heck of an arm.
So when you talk about laces out for field goals,
Sure.
is that your responsibility to spin it correctly so then
Yeah.
Corey can set it, or
Yeah,
is that
it's,
all? For,
95% me.
Really?
And it's 5%. He's just got to catch it the same every time. Yep. So
How do you
so on a punt, I don't have a football with me,
It's
but
wild.
on a punt, the laces will be, I grab the laces like I'm throwing a football, right underneath. So the laces will be in my fingers. But on a field goal, 8 yards, the tip of the ball, I don't put the tip of the ball at 8 yards. I put it a little behind the hash to get the laces right. So it's about 4 inches in front of, if this is the bottom of the hash mark, this is 8 yards. The ball will be here-ish to get perfect laces every time.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And I have to rotate it like a quarter spin. So that the laces
He's
are
like,
right.
you know what I'm talking
No,
about.
I'm
Like,
trying to like the laces are in my thumb.
Okay.
It's a quarter spin this way, right?
Yeah.
Clockwise.
Yeah.
So the laces are not here. They're in. So I'm like my fingers are not grabbing laces, if that makes sense.
And there's no gloves, right?
No gloves. Some guys wear gloves. The Indy guy wears gloves. The Cincy guy wears gloves. I think I want to say they're the only two.
And you're just ripping it.
Yeah. I've
That's-
tried with gloves. It's hard, man. It's hard. I don't know.
Well, you just got
Hard.
such a feel for it because you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably in the rain. It would make a difference if you knew how to do it, because you're getting the same feel on the ball with a glove every time. But playing up here for 5 years, you learn to
Yeah.
snap in the rain.
With
Yeah.
it being that quick of a play, does wind affect it at all if it's really blowing?
Yeah, I think it was the Baltimore game, the Baltimore playoff game, or no, yeah,
No, you're right.
No, yeah,
because
Baltimore
they
playoff
missed
game.
a bunch.
yeah. Like some of the punt snap, the field goal snaps, not as much because it's quick,
Yeah.
8 yards, but
The punts.
the punts 15, it's pretty much twice the distance. That kind of, once it gets past 8 yards, that's where the wind can play a factor. So and if you're in our stadium so the wind comes, if you're looking at the scoreboard, not the opposite the tunnel side, if you're looking at the scoreboard to the left, that's where the wind comes in and it kind of swirls from the lake, right? So if you're snapping towards the scoreboard, that's where the wind can affect it the most. So you just got to really hone in on your spiral and making sure your thumb placement is right, and you can get a tight spiral on it, because that'll make a difference.
So
It'll really just blow it like side to side,
Yeah.
which is the biggest thing.
Sure.
Up and down is not a huge. he can catch it up here, he can catch it on his knees. It's not a huge difference. I try to hit him on the hip every time, but side to side is where it could potentially
Go
have
astray.
an issue. Yeah.
So obviously you've been to every stadium. So
Almost.
So,
I missed. I think I have. Well, between preseason and regular season games, over my 5 years, there's like 6 that I'm missing,
okay.
and I missed San Francisco this year because we had to play in Arizona, unfortunately. So,
Oh yeah, that's right, because of their county or whatever.
And I think that was it. I think that was the only. I was supposed to hit San Francisco to knock that one off the bucket list.
Gotcha.
So
So when do you have like field notes? You'll get there.
Yeah.
You got like field notes of each stadium. So like our stadium. So like the wing
sure,
comes from this side. Do you have a
sure.
field note for each stadium?
I think not for every stadium, but definitely the ones that we play in the most: New England, Miami, New York. Jets, and then some of the AFC stadiums that we played a couple times. But really, the division games is where you remember the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does we talk about laces out for field goals? But what is your technique for punting? Do you have to have laces in a certain way for?
No, it's
Just get it there.
it's too the variance is too high based on the the rotation of the ball and kind of where he catches it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. He spins it in his hand anyway.
Yeah, okay.
He spins it when I give him laces up. If he catches it, on his hip and the laces are up where he likes it, where they're ideal, he'll still spin it. Like just because it's a mental thing now, just because that's part of his. He'll catch it, spin it, step, punt. Right? That's just part of it. So it doesn't really matter where the laces are. He's still gonna spin it.
So
You're like, thanks,
Part
bro.
of it. Yeah, I'm like, oh, whatever.
So
Do your thing.
when we're talking offense and a center goes down, so like if Mitch Morse went down, you would never step in
No chance.
because
Let
of
me
your
emphasize that
blocking.
again. No chance.
Because of the blocking
No chance.
aspect of it. Is that
Yeah,
bad?
those
Everything. I
Aaron,
mean,
you,
they're-
you think I'd go out there and block Aaron Donald? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Plus, you have to literally know every single thing about
yeah.
basically everything.
They'd put a D lineman in there before me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
It's just not even close.
No.
I gotcha.
yeah. No.
Okay.
I got asked, our OC at LSU my senior year. He said, his name was Cam Cameron. He coached the Chargers for a while. He came up to me at practice one day in training camp, and he was like, "Hey, do you mind if I grab you one day to kind of go over some emergency center plays?" I was like, "Okay." I mean, the SEC guys are, they're as big as guys we're playing against
doubt.
now
Yeah.
on Sundays.
Yeah.
If I was somewhere else, at some a smaller school, I'd be like, I could probably make it happen. 230, 235. I could hold my own maybe. Just cut the guy every time, right?
Yeah, right.
Take his
Yeah.
knees out. But no, I mean, he never circled back with me and told me the plays or anything, so I just kind of brushed it off. But yeah, I have yet to be asked in Buffalo if
That's
I will
good.
take an emergency center.
Is that a
snap.
thing throughout the league or no?
Like snappers?
Yeah.
Being no, I
Okay.
highly doubt it.
Yeah.
Since it's early 2000s is kind of when I think it started changing in the NFL to be guys started specializing in it, and it became their main position. Whereas the older times, I say older times, 90, pre 2000 maybe, that backup tight ends. If you could learn how to snap and just get it back there, then that's kind of what you did. You were a second string tight end and the long snapper, right? But nowadays, special teams, it's so detailed that the snap has to be perfect. The laces have to be perfect, right? Like little different things like that is so specialized that you have to have a guy like myself, like 32. There's 31 other guys like me who only focus on snapping.
Yeah.
So
Some guys might be athletic enough to play. There's a handful of guys out there that are, 6'3", 250, right, that could block as a tight end or something, go out there and do it, but they're snappers first.
yeah.
and they could do that.
So, God forbid you went down. Who would replace you?
So Lee Smith, probably. He did it in Oakland a couple years ago, I think. He was the emergency guy and had to go in. I think he told me he went in, had to go in a couple times, maybe 2 or 3 times in his career just to get the job done. So, yeah.
So this past season, you had the opportunity to get mic'd up.
Yes.
So tell us about that experience and what was that? How does that work? Like, do you get a nod? Like, how do you find out that you're
They
gonna
asked
wear
me
it?
earlier in the week. They're like, "Hey, would you be comfortable?"
Who?
Like the media people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like the videographer people. So they asked me. They're like, "Hey, we're playing at home. Last game of the season. You're playing your brother. Are you interested in being mic'd up?" Yeah, sure. Why not? I've done it for preseason games the past 2 years prior to this year. We were 2-0. And so I was just like, sure, why not? So it's a running joke that we call it the mic'd up miracle, because both games, the first game I was mic'd up, we played in Chicago in the preseason, and that was AJ McCarron. We came back, we were like down 24-3 or something, and it was the 4th preseason game, and we came back to win in Chicago. So the next year, this was not this past season, the year prior, the 4th preseason game. Hey, Reid, you want to get mic'd up again? Sure, why not? We were playing the Colts, and we were down, and we came back and won. Tyree Jackson. So mic'd up miracle 2.0. So I had to keep the streak running.
That's it.
We didn't come back on Miami, but we blew them out.
Yeah,
So,
which
that's what matters.
honestly, that's better.
Yeah.
Plus,
So,
you can just rub it in your
2-0.
brother's
I
face.
was about to say 2-0. Go up, gain another game in the record books on Blake. Never bad in my book. But
so
yeah,
funny.
3-0 mic'd up. So
That's incredible.
yep.
So now that you're in Buffalo, what have you done to embrace the community? Are you a part of any organizations locally, or what are you doing here?
Sure. So
What just
yeah.
what are
I
you
mean, I'm
doing
a
here?
part of. I've done. And again, humbly speaking, I've tried to do as much charity work as possible, working with the food bank downtown, handing out food like for Thanksgiving and stuff. I work with the JDRF charity here, of the chapter in Western New York. My brother's type 1 diabetic, so the first 2 years, 2017, 2018, I did my cause, my cleats through JDRF. I designed them for my brother. So that was pretty cool. So I've tried to do some events with them, donations and stuff like that, and some charity work. And then last year I did the Veterans One Stop Center of Western New York. Did my cleats for them, donations and stuff like that. Raised some money for them. And then I think this past year, with I know we weren't going to bring. I tried not
Just
to bring
the
it
world.
up. I
Just
tried
the
not to
world.
bring it up. Just with COVID and everything coming up, or happening, I've tried. Small businesses really took a hit everywhere, not just Western New York. But since this is where I'm located, and this is where I have a little bit of a circle of influence, like a minor circle as big as a long snapper could have. I tried to get out and support as much as I can. First Line's a great example. I'm trying to support these guys. They started during
Right.
during the COVID era. So trying to spread the word about how great they are, how good their beer is. I love beer. So getting out and trying to and you can donate as much as you want, but really I think getting out and spread it and word of mouth is the best advertisement there is. So that's kind of I try to on some of my socials, like during the season, I would try to push. I'm trying to push small business awareness, different places around Western New York. I bought a bunch of my Christmas stuff from like small business places this year, and got a bunch of great feedback from a lot of places that saw some increased revenue from whether it was myself or some of my buddies that were pushing these storefronts. And I mean, I just try to be a blessing to these people as much as I can, because I appreciate so much of what Buffalo has given to me in 5 years. that as much as I can give back, as I try to give back as much as possible. So people are great here.
Yeah, so that was my question. So what is your attitude or your overall opinion on Buffalo coming from Georgia? Kind of ideally wanted to go to Detroit just based on relationships and that whole process with them, and then getting picked up by us. What was that like?
Sure. Yeah. So right off the bat, I'm a big Yankees fan. So I thought I'd be going to Yankees games every weekend. I'm
that's
yeah,
funny.
it's awesome going to New York. I looked on a map and I'm like, 7 hours?
And that's not including traffic, dude.
Not including traffic.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
Yep.
Where am I going? I honestly didn't know, and that's not a dig to Buffalo.
so
No,
funny.
all.
yeah, no, you're not alone.
But if you're
Quicker
grew
going to
up-
Toronto Blue
grew
Jays
up
game.
south of Kentucky, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You just don't know. The Bills have a team, but I tell people that I'm 7 hours from the city. They're like, "What? You're where?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're right off Lake Erie." They're like, "Where's Lake Erie?" I'm like, "Right up north of Ohio." I don't this is where we are. We're a complete other side of the state than New York City. But yeah, it's, sorry, I completely forgot your question.
No,
So,
you're good. Your whole your opinion on Buffalo.
So good food,
Mm-hmm.
better people. That's
like
that's
that.
kind of what I've
Put that on a drink, boys. Let's go.
that's kind of what I've garnered from my time here in Buffalo. I mean, the people are phenomenal. I mean, it's Southern hospitality in New York.
And we had
I mean,
Chick-fil-A now.
And yeah, a couple of them, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I try talk about a small business I like to support. Yeah.
One of the largest chains are in every
know.
airport, but
I
let me tell you
know.
something.
I know.
That breakfast
I know.
sandwich.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
That's awesome. So, yeah, we basically just, obviously, our mission. That's why we wanted to work with you, because you're hell-bent on helping small businesses, as are we. So that's why this made a ton of sense. Obviously, it's just nice that you're a Bill. That's a nice little caveat. But, yeah, so we like to get outsiders' perspectives, because we have a lot of friends that are in Carolinas and stuff, hence my love for Clemson. But it is what it is.
Won't hold it against you.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Cool. Well, thank you, man, so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good time. So thank you, and thank you, First Line, for letting us record here. This is awesome.
Appreciate you, boys.
We love your beer, so yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Reid. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Thank you guys.